Alright guys, thanks for watching as always. We've just returned from a trip to Ottertail County in Minnesota. Now after a 2.5 hour flight from DFW Airport in Dallas, we reached Fargo, North Dakota. It was another hour drive from there before we actually reached our destination. It wasn't really a fishing trip, we were actually visiting my in-laws, but I guess when you're in the state of 10,000 lakes, it's an easy decision to fill up your rod tube and pay a visit to the oversized baggage drop off at the airport. Bluebird skies, a glassed out lake, and the bald eagle soaring above my head. The routine of fishing picturesque places like this one doesn't seem to change all that much for me. You unwind from all the hustle and bustle of the big city, your mind wanders off into nature's beauty until that first bite. Almost as a reminder, dude, you're fishing now. Regardless the species and regardless the size, it's always a great feeling to catch your first couple of fish in a new area. Now after I caught a couple of bass, I visited one of the bridges that goes over the creeks that connects the lakes, and gave me a good reason to dip my GoPro in the water and show what's around. These fish stocks are absolutely amazing. After those inspiring scenes, we decided to chase after some more bass. The temperature stayed stable, the wind dropped slightly, and boy, did those bass fire up. I believe that in the first evening I think I got about 2 dozen of them. Not all of them were big, actually most of them were very small, but that did not take away from the fun. We were catching bass. after bass after bass. The action didn't stop. Now in between those 2 dozen small fish, there was one good sized fish. Unfortunately, I didn't get any recording of it because my battery ran out, but we'll get to that in the morning. Now the next morning I set my alarm nice and early so I could get up with the sunrise, and I got up a bit later than I wanted to, unfortunately, but the first cast with a surface lure, Deps Buzzjet, I managed to hook up into a nice bass. That's the second nice bass of the trip, and the first one I actually got on camera. Look at that for a bass. You'd be happy with that in Texas, but in Minnesota that makes your morning, and then the rest of the week probably too. First cast on the surface lure. Oh, fantastic. Now, as forecasted, the conditions did change a bit. The temperature stayed the same, however there was a nice warm wind pushing in from the south, and that made the bass push into the shallow weeds. The quick change of lures from a jerkbait to a Texas rigged soft plastic did the trick, and the bass kept on coming. Another solid bass was caught right at dusk, fishing a Lucky Craft Semi as a surface lure, right over a very shallow weed bed. This fish completely launched itself into the air when it took the lure. Now unfortunately for me, the conditions kept changing. The wind changed direction slightly, and the air cooled off a lot quicker than it did the night before. The bass quickly moved out of the shallow weed beds, moved past the drop off, but they were very quickly replaced by juvenile pike. I was catching one after the other at a certain point, and became a bit of a nuisance, so I think this is a good point to end our first video fishing Minnesota, and please stay tuned for our next video, which will be coming out in a couple of days. Cheers.